Everybody, so today we're going to learn about frequency and histogram. You're going to need your notebook and a pencil. So frequency is the number of data values in an interval, so the number of times that occurs. A frequency table is just a set of data values into intervals and shows the frequency for each interval. Intervals in the frequency table do not overlap, they do not have gaps, and they're normally of equal sizes. So here's one interval, 2, 3, 4. It's going from 0 to 5, so it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going by sixes. Last year when we made frequency tables, we just listed out 0 to 23, but now we're going to group so that we have an interval, and we can just write the number of times that occurs. So let's make a frequency table. So it says the number of home runs by the batters in a local home run derby are listed below. So what's the frequency table to represent the data? So we first want to look at the maximum and the minimum. Maximum, 17, minimum is 2. So I'm going to choose to go by 4s here. You may choose to go by 3s, you may choose to go by 5s, and that may be different. So when you're doing these examples on your own, they may look a little different than mine, and that's okay, but you want to make sure that you cover all the numbers and that there's no gaps in between. So this is going to be the number of home runs, and then we have the frequency. So I'm going to go 2 to 5, 6 to 9, 10 to 13, and then 14 to 17. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 intervals, and I'm going by 4. So now what I'm going to do is write the frequencies. So 2 to 5. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 6 to 9. 1, 2, 3, 4. 10 to 13. 1, 2, 3. And then 14 to 17. 1, 2, and 3. So this would be my frequency table. I have 4 intervals going by 4s. What you choose to go by is fine, but notice there are no gaps in mine. I go from 5 to 6, then from 9 to 10, then 13 to 14. So this says recreate the frequency table and go using interval of 5. So I'm going to go by 5 for this because it wants us to use an interval of 5. So I'm going to go from 2 to 6, 7 to 11, 12 to 16, and 17 to 21. This is going to, again, represent my home run, and this is going to be the frequency. So go ahead and create this frequency table. You should have had 4, 5, 4, and 1. So this example says the data below shows the battery life in hours of different brands of batteries. So I'm going to let you choose what you want to go by for your intervals and how many groups you're going to have, making sure that you don't have any gaps and they're all of equal. So for mine, it may look a little different than yours. I went from 9 to 12. So 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I went by 4s, and I have 4 groups, and there's no overlap. So that's what you want to look for in yours, to make sure there's no overlap, and each goes by the same amount. So I'm going to take this and then use this when we make histogram. So a histogram is a graph that can display data from a frequency table. A histogram has 1 bar for each interval. So notice the height represents the frequency. There's no gaps again, and the bars are all of equal width. So I have 0 to 5, 6 to 11, 12 to 17, 18 to 23. This is how many times each of these occur. So 6, 5, 3, and 1. So when I have data, I have to first make a frequency table. So the data below tells me the hours per week a group of students spend watching TV. So I'm going to have my hours, and then I have my frequency. I want to figure out what my max and min are. So it looks like my minimum is 0, and my maximum is 22. So now I want to ask myself, okay, what do we want to go by? So I'm going to choose to go from 0 to 5, 6 to 11, 12 to 17, and 18 to 23. Even though 22 is my highest data point, I still have to go inconsistent and staying with the interval I choose. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 different intervals, all going 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So by 6 in each group. Go ahead and record the frequency. You should have 6, 5, 3, and 1. So now we're going to make a histogram. So this has to be my hours spent watching TV. And this is going to be the frequency, the number of students that we interviewed that told us how long we spent watching TV. So my intervals, 0 to 5, then I have 6 to 11, and 12 to 17, and then 18 to 23. I'm going to go up by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm going to draw. 0 to 5 goes all the way up to 6. 6 to 11 goes up to 5. 12 to 17 goes up to 3. And then 18 to 23 goes up to 1. I want to make sure that the widths are all the same. So this says the finishing times in seconds for a race are shown below. What's the histogram that represents this data? So we're going to make the frequency table together so that we all make the same histogram. So this is the time. This is the frequency. I'm going to look for my max and my min. So I see that my minimum is 80. My maximum is 105. So I'm going to go 80 to 89, 90 to 99, 100 to 109. I know that I go through and make my frequency. This occurs 6 times, this occurs 5 times, and this occurs 2 times. So I want you to go ahead and make a histogram. Your histogram should look like this. I made a bar break right here just because we went from 0 to 80, so I just have a little break. So when we interpret histogram, we want to look at all the bars in the graph and look at their shape and see what it tells us. So if you look here, it says the bars are roughly the same height, so the histogram is uniform. If you look on this one, if I can draw a vertical line and divide it into 2 parts that look like the mirror image, it's symmetric. And if the histogram has one peak that is not in the center, it's skewed. So let's look at this one. Asking, is it uniform, symmetric, or skewed? So is it uniform? They're not all of the same height. Symmetric, can I draw a line right down and it looks the same on both sides? Yes. So this would be an example of symmetric. So let's look at this one. Is it uniform? Well, no, they're not the same height. Is it symmetric? Well, if I draw a line down the middle, it doesn't look the same, so it's going to be skewed. This is over to the right, so it shows us that it's skewed. Go ahead and answer these two. You should have answered this one is skewed, this one's symmetric. So the last thing we're going to look at is cumulative frequency. So a cumulative frequency table shows the number of data values that lie in or below a given interval. So we're going to look at what this means. So we're going to make a frequency table the same way, but now we're going to have another column. So this is showing the number of text messages sent on one day by different students. So this is going to be the number of text messages. This is going to still be our frequency. And this now is going to be our cumulative frequency. So I still want to ask myself, what's the max and the minimum? So it looks like my minimum is 0. My maximum is 49. So I can divide it into 5 different parts. So I'm going to have 5 different intervals. That doesn't mean that I need to go by 5s. We can go by 5 or we can choose, but this is saying I'm going to divide it into 5 intervals. So let's just go by 5. So I'm going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Finish the rest. So I wrote out all of my intervals. You could have chosen to go by higher numbers. That again is what you can choose to do. So now I'll go back and record the frequency for each of them. Here's what I have when I wrote my frequency out. So now what does the cumulative frequency mean? So that means I'm going to write what the frequency was for the first one, which is 9. And now to get the next column, I'm going to take a 9 plus 2 to get 11. Then I'm going to take 11 plus 2 to get 13. Then 13 plus 1 to get 14. 14 plus 2 to get 16. 16 plus 1 to get 17. 17 plus 1 to get 18. 18 plus 1 to get 19. 19 plus 1 to get 20. So I'm just adding the numbers that occurred. So let's look at this one. It says, what is a cumulative frequency table that represents the data below? So we need to first write out a frequency table. So I'm just going to put, for this, since it's just, we're going to put numbers, it doesn't tell us what we're looking at. We're going to look at frequency, and we're going to look at the cumulative frequency. So now again, identify your maximum and your minimum, and you want to see what you're going to go by. So for this one, since we're doing it together, I'm just going to have us do the same so that we're all on the same page here. So we are going from 0, and our min and our max is 15. So I could choose to go by 4s, I could choose to go by 5, whatever it is that makes sense. So I'm going to go from 0 to 4. So I went 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going by 5. Then 5 to 9. Then 10 to 14. And then 15 to 19. So go ahead and finish the rest. So you should have had that for your cumulative frequency table. So now what I would like for you to do is to bring your notes up to me so that I can check them, and then I will give you the next step.